good to see you again. It's been a week now, and I am just gonna catch you up to date. So last week you guys saw me coating screens, and now I've already coated the screens. They're all dry. It's been a week. Since last week I printed a couple orders, actually just one order, and did some embroidery for one of my favorite customers, the Queen City Exchange. It's this bar downtown Cincinnati. And now I have like 5 other orders right now. So what I'm gonna do today is prep some artwork on the computer. We have to print the art onto a film so that we can expose one of the screens downstairs in the dark, or in the light box. And once it's exposed, we wash it out in the washout booth, leave it to dry, and then after that, I'm gonna get a frame ready, or set up the press, and try to learn how to talk to cameras better. So that being said, all right, first I'm gonna go get a, I'm gonna recycle some film because I don't want to waste. So, yeah. Okay, so we're down in the basement now. I have my artwork, and I'm just gonna prep this. This is going on the back, and then I have tequila is my love language from the first job that they ordered. So I have to prep both of those. One thing that I'm gonna do to save a little bit of time is combine them onto one screen. So that way I only have to make one screen. It saves me the time of making 2 and setting up 2. So basically, you'll see how I do it. So you can read it from that view. You always want to put it on backwards or upside down. So this is a light box. It vacuums the frame down, and then once it's suctioned, you pull up a timer if you don't have a clock on hand. So I got my timer up here. I usually will expose it depending on the design and how much detail's in the design will determine how much time you want to expose your emulsion. But typically I'll do this for 2.5 to 3 minutes. You really don't want to go above like 4 minutes of exposure, at least in my experience. So it's 2:10:28 right now. So at 2:13 I'll take it out. I always order one extra shirt because occasionally when you're printing you mess one up, so instead of having to reorder everything and go pick it up or wait for it to ship to you, you have a spare one with you. Fine lines are not coming through very well. So like when you're screen printing, the mesh count of a screen is really important for like the amount of detail in the design. So this top design turned out fine, but this bottom one has some really small details in it that I don't know if I want to print that, because they're kind of, I mean, a lot of times what I might do is try to like fix it a little bit, but you can't really get away with too much of that. Let's see. I might have to just use, yeah. So this happens from time to time when you're doing that. basically I just have to make a second frame for the bottom design because there's like some really fine detail in it, and when you're screen printing you want to have anything with like really fine detail, you want to have like a higher mesh screen. So this is like a perfect example. This is a 230. That was like a 160. Anything that's like a spot color where it's just like a solid color design, not a lot of detail, you can use low mesh count screens like a 110 or a 156 or whatever. But if you have like such a small design like this, if it was printed larger, it wouldn't really be a problem. But since it's shrunk down so small, the details in the design get really fine, and you have to use a higher mesh screen because the holes in the mesh are smaller, so it'll hold the detail better. Alright, so that turned out way better, and it's just because it's a higher mesh. I might have underexposed a little bit on this too. So I just lay them here in front of this fan so they can dry. Okay. So we got our squeegees cleaned, frames are cleaned. These are the ones that I did last week. They would be ready for me this week. So I'm just gonna tape up the edges because there's no emulsion on the edges, so like that way it stops any potential ink from getting through those parts of the screen. So we got our frames taped, our squeegees are clean. Next step, as the dryers heat up, is to align the registration. So I'm going to redraw the center mark. Use a T-square for that. So these are 15 inches wide, so at 7.5 inches I'll leave a mark at the top and a mark at the bottom at 7.5. Then line that up and draw a center line. These are also left chest. So typically I'll have left chest down 3 fingers and over 3 fingers. So that's 3 fingers, I think, is like roughly, it's like almost 2 inches. So a lot of times I'll make 2 inches out, I'll have a line, and then 2 inches down, I'll have a line. So that's usually where you want your left chest logo to start. You only really need to do that on one of the pallets because once the frames are lined up, you don't have to move them. And I've been hiring someone who just cleans screens and he's left some ink on them. You want to be super careful with your screens and your hands, anything you touch when you're screen printing. Always want to check your hands and your screens and your squeegees and everything, just because if you get any ink in the wrong place, it can very easily get on your shirt, and then you might not know it, and you might mess up a bunch of shirts, and depending on the equipment you have, it can be really hard or impossible to clean the screens. I'm going to scoot each of these back to 2.5 inches, and then that should be a good point. Maybe a little too far, but so I'll probably put that about right there. should be good. Just for check. Shirt on there. So I usually bring this shirt to the collar, bring that down. So the shirt's gonna have to come down a little bit. Typically though, you really want to be able to center it, so let's do this instead. Center the shirt. So right now I got the pocket coming exactly to there. So I got like a finger out. I think what I'm gonna do is scoop this over this. Forget what I said about that. So I'm going to bring this up, measure how far back that is from the original line. So it's roughly 3/4 of an inch back. So this is my new line for registration. I'll lower this down a little bit. And then just line up this with the new line I drew so that that's perfectly on it. And then tighten this up. You always start with your white underbase, and you want to give it a little bit of off contact. Then I'm going to raise this up. So now I got my white lined up. Before you print on any of the shirts though, you want to print on a test shirt, just so you don't mess up one of your shirts while you're registering. So you got your adhesive, spray it where your design's going. These are all test shirts, which is why they have a bunch of different designs on them. You just find a spot on the shirt that's not already been printed on. Lay that down there so that's on there pretty good. And then I gotta use some ink. Because these designs are so small, you actually don't want to use those big squeegees. So I'm just going to use a little left chest squeegee for each of the stains. Now I'm going to bring it over to registration too, to help me line up the other colors better. So now I got my first layer, so now I got to put this underneath the flash dryer. So that's just going to be there. So right now we're just waiting for this to dry. Flash dryer is just going to sit over it for a couple seconds, long enough to where the ink is not still wet to the touch. It doesn't really take long once the dryer is heated up. If you're still heating up the dryer, it takes a little while, but this should be good. So you just want to dab it. So we're going to do red next. So with this design, I have a white base, I have red, I have blue, and then I have a white top. So the reason for the white top is because sometimes the colors will bleed a little bit. So you can clean that up with a white top. So as you can see, I laid this over the other one so that the registration lines up with my white underbase. So now I'm just tightening it on there a little bit at each side at a time. There's a lot of little nuances to doing everything in screen printing to make it all come together. A lot of people wouldn't really notice the little things, but I guarantee if you try to screen print, or if you have ever tried before, you'll realize that it looks a lot easier than it is. There's a lot of different things you can do with how you're pressing, the angle you're pressing, even just cleaning ink off of a screen. I had somebody try to do that the other day, and the struggle was real. So it's funny because you wouldn't really expect some of these things to be hard. Not that they're really hard, but when you're new to it, it's harder than you might think. So that red was like a little bit lower in registration because, like I said, there's a lot of nuances to printing. So when I'm pushing the ink, it might look like it was in registration when I just lay the screen down, but because it's mesh and it bends, when you push the squeegee over it, the mesh is just ever so slightly bending, and therefore the ink is coming out a little bit lower than it seems. So sometimes when I register, I might actually register a little higher. But one thing I'm going to do with this one is, instead of readjusting the screen to get it aligned, a little trick you can do, and there are a lot of little things, if you know what you're doing, you can do these things to save time. So instead of realigning the screen, I'm going to take the squeegee and pull the ink rather than push it. So we'll see if that makes a difference, and I think that it will. So go show, you already saw the alignment, right? Yeah. So if you want to get a shot, I'm going to lower this down there, but if you want to just have see the whole thing. So now I'm going to pull it. And now, it's still a little bit out, but it's close enough because we're putting a white top on it. So the white top should cover any of those really minor blemishes. I'm going to flash one more time, and then go to the blue screen. You always want to print the white top last because it's there to make the edges more defined. If you were to watch me print this whole order, you'd see that the blue and the red are sometimes bleeding depending on the way that I'm pushing or pulling the squeegee. So by using a white top, it will basically just sharpen the lines. So my goal is to get the white to not show up at all, and also there's a little speck of blue in the V. So what you do for that is take tape, and you just cut out a small enough piece. That might even be too big because it's in such a small part of the design.